Hey guys, Miles U170 here with Joysticks United. I'm doing this to apologize to you all. I'm sorry this episode was late. We were trying to be better for Season 3. I messed up and didn't get it done in time. It's all on me. Won't happen again. If you're listening in the future, we're perfect and we didn't mess up. We're definitely on time. Other reason I wanted to pop on here and talk with you guys real quick. Starting next episode, we are starting a new project. I don't want to tell you about it. I want you all to hear what it is. So before we get into this special episode of interviews with CoderCoco, BorneDreamer, and Sainted Whisper, I want you all to listen to our boy E. Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Welcome, everybody. I would like to introduce to you a brand new and very unique Power Rangers team. One that has been like none other before it. We have known before in the past that different spiritual protectors have been set in folklore to protect both the forest, humanity, and everything in between. Now it's time for both of those things to come together, unite, and protect humanity for one more time with something that we are calling Power Rangers Spirit Force. Hello, and welcome to this section of Joysticks United. I don't know if I'm first, I don't know if I'm middle, I don't know if I'm last. So if I'm the beginning one, welcome on into this episode. If I'm the middle one, thank you whoever was before me. And if I'm the last one, I guess they saved the best for last, didn't they? In this interview, I have gotten a friend who has been asking for a while now to be interviewed for Joysticks United. And he is very jittery. I see on his camera, his whole body is moving. So it is somebody we've talked about before on this podcast. It is CoderCoco. Coco, why don't you introduce yourself? Let the people know who you really are.
Hello, everybody. It's me, CoderCoco. You can catch me out over on twitch.tv streaming a lot of JRPGs and Pokemon Unite. Or you can catch me out over on Gameboat with the other loser in here, E to Interact.
Yeah.
And we sail a ship most of the time. It sinks right before we start streaming.
99% of the time, yeah.
Nothing seems to ever work. And we always have hooky workarounds for video games. There's another podcast that I should not mention on here.
We've brought it up before.
Oh, you've brought it up before?
We brought it up before.
Oh, well, go check out ADHD After Dark if you're over 18. It is not family friendly.
No. So if you're one of the people that's able to listen to this podcast around their family and friends, you can't do that with ADHD After Dark.
I'm kind of worried to listen to that podcast by myself.
Yeah,
because of some
agree.
of the things that go on in there.
I feel like I might hear us in that podcast and go, oh, that was said. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, like I said earlier, I am bringing in CoderCoco, or just Coco. We'll just call him Coco from here on out, because that's what he prefers to be called. Not Coder. Make sure you do not call him Coder. But for those of you who do not know, Coco has been working on a very small indie project. A small indie project. Those are words. Not what I was trying to say. And I figured it would probably be best to bring Coco in, talk about what these experiences are, because sure, Zeno, Miles, and myself, we might talk about video games, but we're talking on the player perspective. We really have no idea what happens on the other end, the people who are developing these games. So the person that I knew best to talk to was this sweaty dude.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so you just want me to go into it? Like,
why don't we
got any starting questions for me?
Yeah, why don't we definitely start off with like what lays the groundwork for indie development? Where does a game start? Because a lot of people think that like people just come in with this one idea and they start just slapping things together. What really is like the foundation? Where does it start?
It starts as a daydream. Just from experience, because the I used to work with the guy that started the whole game that we're working on. And I don't work with him anymore, but we're still working on the game together. And he would just doodle art, random things in meetings, and his art doodling became like a world of its own, if that makes sense.
All right.
And then he was just like, you know what? Let's see if we can make these characters into a game. And so he just started trying out pixel art and stuff like that, and started putting some code together, not really having an idea of what he wanted. And then, he brought it up to me, and at this point, he had like fleshed out a story that he kind of wanted to tell. And I was like, that sounds cool. I can probably figure out how to develop on the game, never knowing how to do game development. But I'm a software developer, so I can figure out, anything that anything usually given to me. So that's pretty much how it started. I don't think a good game can start from like, companies saying, hey, come up with idea that we can sell in 6 years or 5 years. It kind of like stuff that comes organically is going to be, really good. Like you usually see a lot of the first kind of games in franchises. Usually if they have sequels, the first game was usually pretty good, but nothing existed like that before it. And I can guarantee you some executive in a meeting wasn't like, I have this great idea to make a video game. We should do it. Because executives don't have great ideas. It's the people making the games that have the great ideas. And then executives go, that's cool. Let's sell it.
Yeah, because like the executive's job is to sell it. They're the ones who are pushing it out to market. It's everybody else who's kind of coming together and creating this like collage of ideas.
Yes.
What do you think is the most challenging step in creating a game? Because you said you're more on the software end of things.
So me being in the software side, I'm going to obviously say something that I can't do, which is like art and music. But in the software side of things, just getting a game engine is hard enough in itself. Figuring out the physics of stuff, even in like a pixel, a 2D pixel game, which is what we're making. It's called, it was called Transfigured Forest. Now it's called, I'll remember it afterwards. I'm drawing a blank on it. But essentially, like there have been bugs that have shown up in the game that I was like, I don't know how this worked. And like you have to start getting into like ray tracing and looking for impacts of the player so that if you're on the ground or in the air and that your animations are correct, and like lining all that stuff up can be a real challenge. Or you end up when you get to cases where like your character's on the ground in the falling animation and you can't jump because it misregistered the ground or something. And physics itself is really tricky too. Because of how most physics engines work, if an object goes too fast, there's a chance that if it were to hit a wall, that it goes through the wall if it's not coded correctly.
Okay.
Because, from frame 1, it was behind the wall, and frame 2, it was past the wall, and it never had a frame where it was intersecting with the wall. So there's like some complicated math that has to go into that. That's luckily taken care of you from most engine standpoints. But if you're creating a game engine, like that's like the foundation of stuff that you have to think about, complex physics equations that a computer can render in real time.
And I know you brought up working with a game engine before, and this is coming from a different season of Joysticks United. We're talking about how a lot of indie developers were upset with Unity about some of the changes that they were implementing. And I remember you were talking to me about how you and your co-creator were switching engines because of what Unity was doing. So what brought about you guys deciding switching engines, and what's like the challenges of switching engines? Because we hear all these horror stories like Epic comes out with a whole new thing for the Unreal Engine, and people will stop development and be like, no, now we have to use this engine. And then like the game doesn't come out how it was supposed to be. You always hear these kind of stories. So like what goes into changing engines?
Yeah. So the first thing that you asked was about the Unity whole part that made us upset. And that was mainly he was, if I remember correctly, he was really pushing like, if your game doesn't have microtransactions and this and that, then you're stupid.
Yes.
I mean, he said that. He said
He
the
did.
F-bomb.
Those were his literal words in an interview. That is correct.
He said that in an interview, and I went, "Wow, what a CEO!" And I sold all of my Unity stock that moment. And well, I'll call him like the director, because I'm more of like, I'm not like a creator. I like co-creator. I'm like more of a developer that had a lot of hand in the game early on.
That's fair.
And he was like, "Yeah, I don't like how he's running the company." So he looked into a thing called Godot, which is GODOT. The biggest challenge when switching engines, luckily for us, Godot, the code base we had was written in C#. And Godot supports C#. So, for things that weren't, you can have things in your game that aren't engine specific, but it builds on engine specific topics. That's kind of like a dive into like how programming works and stuff like that, object oriented programming. So you basically, we switched from the Unity classes to the Godot classes, which kind of do the same thing but different. So there's always room for, and then retrofitting our code on top of that. And basically, once you switch the engine, the first thing he did was took all the code, moved it over, and then it didn't run. And then it was a process of removing all of the errors that would happen. And that just takes a lot of time, especially for a 2-person team who does this on their free time. And one of them was busy moving and still is moving and hasn't had time really to work on the game. So you have to move stuff, like there was code that I wrote for like the health UI. Obviously, you don't do the UI the same in 2 different game engines, right? So, a lot of the code there for how the UI does stuff is very similar but different. So it's almost like, that whole, just to put a health HUD on the game in Unity took me about a month to do. And it was probably about 25 hours of my time to do it. So to move that into another engine is about like 15 hours of my time. And that would just be, and I think that's how long it took my other guy, my friend, to do it. And it just takes a long time. And that was because the languages are similar. It was easy. Like 15 hours was easy. Right. So, if you go from a language where it was like, that's why we didn't go to Unreal, because if we went to Unreal's in C++ and not C#, and those are different languages, so that would require even more of a rewrite. And you can see how that would be. Sometimes the rewrite could be longer than the original implementation, because after you did the original implementation, you've built stuff on top of it, done bug fixes, and then all of that has to now get ported. So, the original stuff might have been like 25 hours to do, and then over time you've done, another 30 hours of work on it, just here and there. That just builds up over time, and then when you have to move it all, it just becomes a huge mess to move. And I mean, that's the biggest issue when moving engines. And for since our game's not out the door yet, we don't have to worry about breaking existing things. But if there's a game that's already out the door and they want to switch engines, they have to worry about their game even starting up correctly with old engine settings. From the old engine to the new engine, they have to worry about that. Then they have to worry about compatibility. Satisfactory is one that worries about compatibility a lot because they're in early access. And when they update the engine, right, all the mods break. And if they upgrade the engine and you're in experimental, right, you can't go back to early access because the save files aren't backwards compatible. So, even something like that, they could make its way onto the player base and stuff like that. I kind of rambled a lot, and I ADHD'd halfway through the conversation. So I hope I answered the question.
You did. You most certainly did. What do you think is like the biggest hurdle for indie developers to face when creating a game?
So there's two different types of indie developers. There's ones that are doing it full time, and there's ones that are doing it as part of a second day job, like second to their day job. So I'm in the latter category, and I would say that my biggest hurdle is getting the motivation after doing my day job to do the to do any development on the actual game. And I have been slacking. I haven't done any real development on it since like a year and a half ago. The last major thing I contributed, this was before the engine switch even happened. The last major thing I contributed was adding the base foundation for AI in the game. But that's what it would be from my perspective as somebody who does it as a part-time. Now, for full-time, I would have to say, obviously, burnout. If you put a release date out there and then you don't hit it, the biggest thing that people like to try to do is to hit the release date and either work themselves to death or not have a working game. So that's another big hurdle for those that are doing it full time. But I can't really speak to that side too much.
Right. Because like I go on TikTok every once in a while and I always see these indie developers that will show off stuff, and then there's like millions of comments that are just like, why'd you delay the game? Why'd you delay the game? It looks fine the way that it is. But
that's because whenever they're showing a TikTok video or something like that, they're showing the parts that are working. They don't show like the 5 feet to the left in the level where everything's upside down for no reason.
Now, I remember one time you were streaming and you were showing off the project, and there was something that was going on with an enemy that you kept going like, oh, I have to fix something here.
Yeah, it was the AI would get itself into a state where it wouldn't go to the next phase if you did like a very specific set of things in a certain order, and then the AI would just kind of get stuck there. If I remember correctly, it was so long ago, but I think that's probably what I was doing. And there was probably also some stuff with like the physics that was going weird. Because there was one where I thought I was clever doing a check to see if the player was on the ground, because surprisingly, it's not really easy to tell if your character's on the ground. And it also sometimes triggered the wall as the ground. So like there were like little invisible lips that the character could seep through in the game engine, which would then cause like 1 pixel of your foot to hit the ground. And then it would just be like, oh, you're stuck on the side of the wall now. I mean, it was like a unintended cool little feature, but some developers turn that sort of stuff into actual features. They're like, yeah, we don't want to fix this because it's cool, so let's just keep the bug and make it a feature. But I think that was definitely because I was working with the AI and it definitely broke itself. I think it basically exploded forever.
Oh, okay.
If I remember correctly.
Yes, I do remember that.
And I blew my eardrums out too, because it was just like
I do remember watching that, and you're just like, this should be done. And it just kept getting louder.
Yeah, I had to Alt F4 the game. I was like, ooh, this hurts a lot.
That's what I specifically remember. So with like, since you're working with like a 2-person team, do you think that it's difficult to try to stay up to date with like the latest software trends or like the newest like UI for most games of your genre look like this, but you're trying to make it look like that?
So yeah, we don't usually get too involved in what other games are doing unless it's like from a technological standpoint, like how settings are done and stuff like that. Unity does settings in the dumbest way possible. Some of the settings in Unity are actually stored in the Windows registry. Really? Don't know why they did that, and I was very upset that they did that. So I wrote my own custom way to store settings into a settings file.
Is that why whenever you play like a Unity game, the settings are super bare bones?
Yes, and that's why sometimes when you set settings in the game, they don't reflect back like the next time you start it back up. It's because like resolution and which monitor it's on and all sorts of other stuff is controlled by the registry, which is it means that the game starts up faster because it just has to go to the registry key. But like in terms of how much faster it starts up, it's like minute. So I don't know why they went with that option.
Okay.
It's very interesting why they would do that. Yeah. I forgot what the first question was.
In all honesty, the ADHD kicked in. I don't remember what the first part of that question was.
I think I answered it, maybe.
I think
Sorry,
you did.
listeners, if we didn't.
So
Farha, our only listener, call back to the What's Your Superpower podcast. Does Hall listen to this podcast?
I don't know if Hall does listen to
I'm
this
going to
podcast.
find out because he's not going to like me talking bad about the What's Your Superpower podcast. RIP.
So what do you think motivates you to work on this game when you are motivated?
The fact that I can contribute to stuff, to say that I've done that, pretty much the same reason why I do my day job. It's just that a lot less people get to see the stuff that I write at my day job. A little bit less so now that I'm in a different company. But when I was at my previous company, like I was banks of banks were our customers, and governments, and things that the general public doesn't see, and like the customer base was like 100 people.
Oh,
right.
Yikes.
100 people that paid millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
For software, right? So, not too many people get to see my work. It's less so now that I'm at a different company. But for a game, people kind of directly get to see the stuff that you did, inside of, playing the actual game.
And like most people, like when it comes to having their names and credits, you normally see if they're like backing a Kickstarter or something.
Yeah.
Because I think your girlfriend's name is in some game credits, isn't she?
Yeah, she played through a game not too long ago. I can't remember what the name of it was, but she backed it a couple of years ago, and I think it came out just now, or it has been out, and she just got around to playing it. But yeah, they put her name in the credits of it. There were a lot of people in the credits I saw.
Oh, I could imagine.
Because she only sent me the pictures of the A's, and I was like, oh, that is a lot of people.
All right, so there's one question here that I have no idea what it means, but I'm curious if you can.
Okay.
What is the difference between a dynamic array and a vector in C++?
A dynamic array and a vector?
Yes.
I mean, I kind of know what both of those are, but like, I don't think I don't have the C++ experience. A dynamic array, my best guess is, and this is just me guessing based on my programming knowledge, not my game development knowledge.
Right.
It's probably an array that can grow and shrink as needed. A vector to me sounds like you have an X, Y, and Z in a direction you need to go. But I think that's incorrect for C++ programming, because I'm getting confused with like the C# vector classes for determining determining your position and motion and stuff like that.
Okay. It was on this like list of questions that I have for people that work in indie studios, so I was curious if that was a question I can throw out there. All right, so
a vector is a dynamic array whose size can be increased, whereas the array size cannot be changed. There you go.
There we go. That answers that question. All right, so thank you, CoderCoco, for dropping on here in the podcast. Again, you can check him out over at twitch.tv/CoderCoco. He's also on the Gameboat over on YouTube, youtube.com/Gameboat. He's also on the ADHD After Dark podcast, where you can listen to if you're not around friends or family or coworkers, and after you're done listening to this episode. Anything else you want to say?
Nope, that's all. Goodbye, everybody.
All right, so either I'm passing this off to the next person or it's ending here. I don't know, but let's find out.
What's up, everybody? This is XenoStream38, joined with my good friend BorneDreamer here, and we got a topic we're going to talk about with you today. Born, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is BorneDreamer. I'm also a member of the Ascension stream team that we have put together, and I'm here with Zeno to talk about how gaming has changed for us.
Mm-hmm. So, I know for me, like online gaming to start. Back in the day, you played Call of Duty? I'm sure everybody did when they were a teenager. Like, how much that has changed from then to now? Like, you get into a lobby with somebody that is just obviously better than you. It's so much easier nowadays. You see it all over the place where you're like, man, that guy's a sweat. Like, get out of your mom's basement and stuff. Like, that's not what we did back in the day.
Well, I think part of it too is like I was thinking like my first online experience was Halo 2. Was my first online experience at all, like dial-up internet. Like I had to time my internet usage for when my mom used the phone.
Oh yeah.
But there was no meta. Like everyone was just on. They were using SMGs, battle rifles, sniper rifles, shotguns, plasma rifles, plasma pistols. People were just doing whatever. And the game itself didn't have a meta. But the thing I think that accentuates what a meta is unfortunately it's like content creators. Because I'm only going to mention games that I play because I can't talk about ones I don't. But like Destiny PvP or Dead by Daylight or Overwatch, like there's always a streamer saying this is the best pick here now. And as soon as like that high-end streamer says those things, that's all you see.
Right.
So it almost feels like you're playing the same game on repeat. For example, like when Warzone was out and you had the big content creators, everybody like whenever a patch would hit, oh, this is the gun you want to run. And then the entire lobby is just running those guns. And I feel like PvP, like it burned me out. Like I don't even like playing PvP that much because like I don't want to play against the same people over and over again. And then I sit on the fence with the whole, I guess, skills-based matchmatching because I know there's pros and cons. Because I mean, when I grew up, there was none. Right? You just one game you did well, or it was just you got stomped, and that's the way it was. But I think the good thing about skill-based matchmaking is it like those sweats you refer to, or it just removes them from your lobbies if you're an average person, which is good. Yeah. But the bad thing is like if you're good, you're like punished for being good, kind of thing, and you don't get to have a lot of fun. But it's like, is it really fun for you just to stomp people? So it's just kind of like a conundrum, and I really don't know what the right decision is there.
Right.
To be honest,
it's one thing, half a dozen of another, because it's like you don't want to log into a game, especially after work, and you're like you work 8 hours, 10 hours a day, and then you log in and you just get absolutely stomped by somebody the entire time you're online. But at the same time, it's not engaging if you're just logging on, you're just effortlessly mowing people down, just like easy dubs, like 10 kills over the next person in line. So it's like, how do you really fix that?
Gaming changed with esports and streaming. It fundamentally changed everything because now you have people who, I mean, before it was just the only reason you played was just because you wanted to relax, play with your friends. Now it's like people want to make a career out of this, whether it's streaming or it's YouTube.
Everything is competitive.
Or it's and that's what I feel like ruins it for somebody like myself, who I'm not going to make any money streaming or doing anything. I don't stream anymore, and I'm just here to vibe. And it's just like I feel like that's what you run into a lot. And it creates this really bizarre atmosphere, and it affects PvE content, which is beyond me. I can't understand why people give a crap what anybody else does in their own separate PvE. Of course, I'm a big Destiny person. I play much more PvE because I do not like their PvP experience. Just personal opinion. But I mean, you have people like shaming you for using certain things. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's like, how did that ever come into play? Like, we all used to just enjoy playing a game.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, just the esport thing is like, everybody wants to be a professional player or join a team, or they just want to be a streamer. And the thing that drives me crazy is just the meta stuff, because I'm a big Overwatch person. As soon as a patch hits, I'll see, 20 channels saying who's the best, support to run, who's the best DPS to run, who's the best tank, and then literally first game, I'm like, yep, there it goes. There's Junker Queen, because everyone knows that she's overbuffed, right? It's like that kind of thing. Whatever character, I'm just using her for an example, but yep, there's Junker Queen. And then I feel like, for me, it almost feels like the more educated you are, like the worse your experience is because you almost know better.
Right.
Like, you know, going through this game, like, this character is busted and shouldn't be this way. And the fact that you lose to it and you can't even do anything about it pisses you off more because you know it's broken.
Yeah.
If you didn't, it's like ignorance is bliss, right? If you didn't know, it's like, oh, whatever, I just lost. I can be better. But now that you know that this character is a problem, it just eats at you more and more. And I feel like that's what a lot of people's problems are. That's where I think a lot of burnout comes from.
Yeah, I can see
that. I see a lot of people suffering from like burnout in any game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah.
I could see that, like in Pokemon Unite, Coco and I do a fair bit of that. And there was a period where we had to take a break from it because new Pokemon come out in the game. And of course, it's staged so that the new Pokemon that comes out, they obviously want you to buy it. So it's obviously better out the gate.
Yeah, they have power creep, I guess that's what I'm assuming. Yeah.
So, I mean, you see, like, you'll load into a lobby and you'll see a Pokemon on the other team that just came out and you're like, oh yeah, well, this is going to be a fun time because that Pokemon's obviously busted right now and we're just about to get wrecked. There's going to be nothing you can do about it. And it happens. We had to quit for a while because we're like, I'm just not having fun doing this.
But if you didn't know that said character was busted, you wouldn't know any better and just thought, oh, I just lost. I'm just kind of getting my butt kicked right now.
That guy was way better than me, had a better gaming chair, you know.
I think the other part of it too that's changed, not only has player attitude changed with streaming, I think dev team attitudes and game creation has changed.
Okay.
Because everybody's doing their attempt at a battle pass, their attempt at live service, because it makes the most money. Like, no one's really looking to do like the $70 new game thing because you make your money and you're done.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, my game's free, but all these things cost more and more money.
Yeah, I think it's part of that too is like, take for example like a Mega Man game. If you've ever played one of those, you could beat that game in a few hours if you're semi decent at them. And it's like, can you justify paying $60 for a game like that when the competitor is Call of Duty, who $70 and you have like infinite resources to have new content and stuff like that, and you can buy into a battle pass, but it's like that stuff like really puts a dampener on the gaming as it is now too.
I think too, this is just me. I guess maybe this is just something that changes game to game, but I feel like there's like a major disconnect between devs and players, more so now than I feel like that's ever existed. Where I feel like players aren't necessarily heard. And I don't really think that falls on devs, because I know a lot of devs that are very passionate about whatever game they're in.
Absolutely.
And devs only have so much say, because in reality, it's a boardroom that makes these decisions.
Correct, yeah.
And I think that's where the disconnect happens. I see it in like Destiny. I see it in Overwatch, especially like Dead by Daylight. Like, it's just...
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so... The communities are loud in what they want. Sometimes for bad, but most times like, hey, this is what we want. And then like they just either never do it or just do something so off the wall that all the players are like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, no one asked for this.
Yeah. I'd say just from scrolling through Twitter, Dead by Daylight is a huge component of that. I mean, Destiny is too. I mean, Destiny players. Yeah. It's like,
Dead by Daylight's pretty egregious, I think. Like, people have been begging for stuff for years and it's just nothing changes. And Overwatch is the same way. Like, for example, right now you have characters are just like, because, you know, Overwatch 1 to 2, like, they went down to 5v5, and there's some characters that just don't fit that criteria and need to be changed, and they just are not changed. And we are on season 4.
Right. And you have no hope of PvE coming out.
No hope of PvE coming.
So it's like, where are those resources going?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think Bungie does a good job, mostly. I think the only thing they get in trouble for is that if there's a bug in the game that's a little favorable to players, they're very quick to patch it. But something that's like the one-shotting thrusters, for example, when Lightfall fell, and that was out for how long?
Right.
A month?
Yeah. That was ridiculous.
That's the kind of stuff that get under people's skin, I think. But I do think that I think I said it wrong. I don't think it's a dev team issue. I think it's just games make money in a different way that pushes their decision making away from what players want and more towards what they'll buy. Right. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it too is like, how much can we get away with here?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, Like in Destiny, they're like, you're still gonna buy the game, so like, come on, like we can get away with like, the thrusters and stuff like that. Like they were just you'd walk into a Nightfall and just get one hit KO'd and stuff. And I feel like we went through that for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks almost.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most frustrating bugs in the game because it was all determined by your frame rate, I think, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Same thing with like the Taken Flames. It was like all frame rate. I'm like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do?
Right. Yeah. And then it like, you want to put down the game, but at the same time, you're like, I really enjoy this game. And I think they kind of can see that too with everything
they prey
being
on
online.
that, I think.
Yeah. They like, okay, well, our numbers aren't dropping. So like, this isn't a priority right now. But then you see the stuff like legendary farming and stuff like legendary shard farming and stuff. And they're like, oh, no, can't have that because that's going to break the economy of the game. Players going to have acquire things way too fast. They're not going to have to grind for it and stuff. And they're like, nope, got to patch it so they can spend more time on the game rather than just having it all right there by using this glitch that's in the game.
I think a lot of the problem is with games like this that get away with stuff like that is there's not a lot of competition anymore. There's just big names and then that's it.
Right.
I think the only game you could say like, okay, Battle Royales, there's what, Fortnite, Apex, Warzone, and I'm probably forgetting something. PUBG.
PUBG, yeah.
That one I can see, but like as far as like looter shooters, like what's really competing with Destiny right now? Nothing.
Right. Yeah.
And Overwatch, it's a tough game to describe. It's a 5v5 shooter with MOBA team elements, like Team Fortress 2 mixed with MOBA. So it's like, what competition does that game have?
Valorant?
No, not really, because Valorant's more like CS:GO more than anything else.
Right. Yeah. It's bizarre.
It's so bizarre, and it's hard to like. Yeah, you're right. Why would they change if their player numbers don't dip?
Right.
Why would they change if people are still going to buy things?
And they're still making money, which is
which is part of the machine. Because they even said it on the Overwatch dev team update. They're like, oh yeah, we're having a great year, and that's no PvE, none of that. They're like, oh, we're making money.
Right. Yeah. In their head, it's frustrating for gamers like us.
It's frustrating for everybody. I think hardcore players is terrible because I even like the big streamers I watch from once in a while. They all seem burned out of everything. So I can't even say like I'm playing the wrong games. It seems like a pretty universal thing. One thing I will say I think is interesting, and I can only speak on this as far as like Destiny maybe, is when you have like the I guess, how do I say it? Like people who are like, I guess the sweats in quotations, which I would put myself and you in that because 95% of people don't solo dungeons or do shit on master or do GMs. I think what is the population of people that actually do GMs? It's like 10% of the Destiny population do them.
It's pretty low.
It's small.
Like, I know on the couple of the titles that we have, like the solo completion of Spire and like the solo completion of Duality, it's less than 5% of people that have that title of the players that play Destiny 2 in total. So it's like very small percentage.
So I'll put myself in that. But then I see people like on Twitter or enter whatever social media platform that are like, oh, this makes the game too easy. We need to take that away. And it's just you're not a balance dev. Like, what are you doing?
100%. And it's like
the game's too easy. And remember when Lightfall came out? They did that whole stream about bringing challenge back to Destiny.
Right.
And it did nothing but backfire in their face. And they pretty much had to roll it all back. And I was like, shocking. Yeah. We didn't see that coming.
Right. 100%.
And I never understood the dev team or company listening to the top 1% of their player base. Like right now, there's an argument like the new exotic creates woven mail. And the woven mail's too good. It's like, who uses woven mail that much? Who?
Right. But
who's the problem? Like, I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like you're finding details that don't need fixing. Like, Like the whole div nerf to me to this day doesn't make any sense.
Oh my gosh. I could go on forever about it, as I'm sure you could.
Or nerfing things that are easy. There's nothing wrong with having ease of access in your games. There's not everyone's at the level you are. And it's strange to me that people don't understand that. It's interesting because I think difficulty should be selectable.
Yeah.
But I think also like the From Software team always said like their game wouldn't be the same if it was easier, and that's just their artistic design.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a line where what is the point of a game if it just frustrates you?
Right. Yeah.
Like it's so hard that it's like it's hard for me sometimes to see these things that are really difficult. I'm just like, who's having fun?
Right. Yeah. But I mean, there are people that do enjoy that level of a challenge and stuff like that. Like, I mean, you have people that play Elden Ring on what's her name? I can't think of her name. She played Elden Ring on a DDR dance pad and beat it to its completion.
Yeah.
Like, those people like that really like to challenge themselves to that level.
There's just such an outcry, like, oh, I can't be bothered or I can't play it because it's too hard. And I was just interested to see like what thoughts were on that, because it's really up to the company's artistic design and how accessible not accessible, just how difficult they want it to be. Because I agree with them. I think if you opened Elden Ring and you put on easy mode per se, like it would not be the same game on any level.
Definitely not. Like I remember, I think I got past the first boss in Elden Ring, and it took me a good 2 hours probably to get past that boss. And after it, I was like, all right, I'm going to be done for a little bit because I'm exhausted from this experience. And then I just never went back to it just because I was like, man, that's a daunting task and I don't think I'm prepared for it. I just kind of want to relax and kind of do something mindless and maybe work myself up to that experience. But kudos.
The solution to that problem, though, is just people just don't. You don't have to play that stuff.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And that's largely why I don't.
I mean, it's the same thing for me. Like, I'll be open. Like, PvP for me sucks. I can't think of it. Like, the only can't talk today. PvP game I play is probably Overwatch once in a while. And then if I'm having a bad night, I get off pretty quick.
Yeah.
I really enjoy PvE. I think a lot more single-player games. I think single-player games are far more popular than people give them credit for, because God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring.
Oh, yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West, the new Legend of Zelda, like all those games when they come out are huge successes.
Yeah.
Huge. And people are like, oh, multiplayer games are it. I'm like, I think things are changing for people. I think PvE, cooperative games, resource gathering games, management games, building games, anything cooperative or PvE, and then single player, I think are growing much higher in popularity, because if you look at the player bases for a lot of these PvP games, they're steadily dropping. So obviously the players or people out there are not having a good time.
Right.
And I think a lot of PvE comes down to people they want to relax. They have anxiety, social anxiety, or don't want to deal with toxic behavior, whether it's text chat or voice chat.
Yeah.
Just avoid that altogether and play a cooperative game or play something on your own.
Yeah.
I think we're just seeing a change go on in the industry, I think, because every single player game that's semi-large does incredibly well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'd say in recent weeks, I've been playing Grounded. If you've ever played Grounded, it's kind of like a survival game in which you're shrunk down and you like gather resources and stuff like that. I've been having a freaking blast just playing with like 3 other friends, and we're just gathering resources and communicating of like, okay, well, we need to have this thing for the base, and I'm going to start working on this thing for the base. If you could go out and grab these supplies and stuff like that. I've been having way more fun with that than anything else lately.
There was a game at the PlayStation reveal that was like that. It's like, I can't remember what it was called. Man, I'm kicking myself for that member, but it was it looked like a military game. It's like you build bases on Mars or something. Okay. You kill aliens. It's like base management defense. I'm like, oh, that's like a horde mode. I'm into that. And that's the kind of stuff I like.
Yeah, that stuff's cool. I'm big on I used to do a lot of PvP, and I used to be pretty decent at it, but it's like I'm at the point now where I don't have enough time to dedicate to PvP and be really good at it and keep up with the metas and stuff like that, so I just unfortunately avoid it. But I mean, to each their own. If you enjoy PvP, go get you some. It's
also
it's there
a different
for you.
kind of PvP that's growing too. It's not just shooters anymore. I mean, Valorant does well. CS:GO will do well because it's CS:GO, but like League of Legends and Dota do incredibly well and hold their player base, and that's technically PvP, but it's the MOBA. Yeah,
I remember League of Legends community used to be very toxic back in the day. It was really bad, but I've heard it's shaped up quite a bit.
I don't think it's really any different than anyone else's. I think they're probably worse in the fact that they're less patient on new players, I guess. But I mean, you'll find toxic people in a community.
Yeah, you know, a game that I was really surprised to see, just because of my team with World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft sometimes has very toxic community in the sense of like when you go to do a raid, you're in it with anywhere from 10 to 25 people, and if you don't do the exact right thing, people berate you and just like bully the crap out of you.
That happens in Destiny LFG sometimes too.
But Final Fantasy 14 or Final Fantasy Online, I was very surprised. I started playing that recently by suggestion of one of my friends that's super into it, plays it all the time. They actually have a no griefing policy that they stand behind. If you're griefing somebody, you get banned. Like there's no
What's their definition of griefing?
So like things like I haven't personally experienced it, but from players that have played the game for a long time have told me, like, if you're griefing somebody for, like, you're in a raid and you stand inside of, like, say, lava or something like that and you die, and somebody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing that, like, you're an idiot or something like that, that's grounds to get banned, because you're creating a toxic experience for another player just because you can't control your ability to not just be a jerk to somebody. And I haven't experienced any toxicity in Final Fantasy, but I've experienced several players as I'm going through dungeons and stuff and kind of learning the game, and it's vastly different from World of Warcraft in terms of like level grinding and stuff like that. And I've run through dungeons with players and they're like, hey, I don't want to correct you or anything, but like you might want to think about doing this and this is why and stuff. And it's more of an educational cooperative experience than WoW of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing that. You're such a noob and stuff like that. Whereas Final Fantasy is more like, hey, like, let me help you. Let's talk this out and you do this, and like you should do like get this gear. You can go to this place and get this gear. That's what I would recommend for you and stuff like that. It's a much greater experience trying to play an MMO that way.
I tell people just to relax.
Yeah, 100%. It's
not life or death.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. I mean, emotions get trampled and stuff like that. And it's easy to be prideful in those scenarios and stuff too, but I would agree. Largely, us gamers just need to relax and try to remember that we're trying to have a good time while playing video games.
I think that's the most important thing, is to unplug and just take things in stride. I think you'll be all right. But the industry does definitely change, and it is changing. It's always changing, obviously. It's nothing's going to stay constant, but you just have to kind of change with it and adjust expectations accordingly.
Yeah.
Like, I know, but just like meta is just, it is what it is.
Yep.
I just expect it now.
Always going to be there.
Yep.
100%. Alrighty. Well, I think that's about the time that we have. You have any closing statements or anything you'd like to get out there?
No, I would say just relax and try to have a good time. If you get frustrated, play something else, take a step away. I think that's key. I think just step away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff gets too much. I hear too many people like, oh, I hate this game. And then I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty sure that guns out to your head, you can stop.
Right. Absolutely. You can step away and take some time, breathe, relax.
But yeah, that's about it for me.
Alrighty, right on. Well, it was a pleasure having you, Born. I'm glad chatting with you.
Always.
Listeners, viewers, if you have anything you'd like to add, things that you've noticed that's changed in the gaming industry. Of course, Born and I, we're old men now, so like we've been around a long time with the gaming experience. Like we remember playing on a old NES. So, I mean, gaming has changed quite a bit for us, but we'd like to hear from your experiences as well. Wherever you entered into the gaming world to now, let us know what you think, and hit us up on Twitter. You can find us at Joysticks United over on the Twitter. Let us know what you think, and until next time, be better.
What's up, everybody? Miles G170 here, and we are doing a special episode of Joysticks this week. So far, you've probably already heard from Ida Interact and CoderCoco, as well as XenoStream38 and BorneDreamer, but I'm here with one of my favorite people that I've ever talked with, Sainted Whisper.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Sated, man, we've known each other, what, 2 years now? I think it was February of 21.
Yeah, roughly about 2 years, man.
Yeah,
roughly
it
about
was
2 years.
pretty close to when your first kid was born.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, about 2 years. You are definitely right about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because when I first saw you was at a town hall meeting, and you came in late, and you were like, "Hold on, guys, baby's sleeping," and I was like, "Baby." Yeah. So yeah, Sanet and I were both part of Ascension together. Sanet is still with Ascension. I have moved on. Still nothing but love for Ascension. You know, Joysticks doesn't exist without Ascension. Exactly. But Sainted was one of the first people I really got to talking to, and I think it was about RPGs, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, you and I were like the only two RPG guys in that meeting.
We gotta love us some RPGs, man.
Oh, yeah. All right, here's the tough question. What's your favorite RPG of all time?
Final Fantasy all day.
Which one?
Okay, so I'm gonna reiterate why. Okay, I'm gonna say first, and I'm gonna reiterate why. Well, Final Fantasy VIII is to me one of the most like best RPGs ever. Only because, and that's because of the reason why. My dad was a big component of like just like any other parents in the 70s and 60s. They're like, video games are bad, and and you shouldn't be playing them. But when I bought my first PlayStation, I bought it. My mom had bought my PlayStation, and I had no video games. And so, of course, every summer I would go stay with my dad in the country, and so I would be bored and whatnot. And so he would say, you know what? One day I was like, Dad, can we go get a video game? Because I'm bored. I got this PlayStation, no games. And he first was like, no, I'm not getting no video game. So, but we ended up going to Walmart, and I don't know if you guys remember, they used to have them big bins full of just like $5 games and stuff like that for the double disc and whatnot. And so happened Final Fantasy VIII was in there. Did not know what it was. I was just like, Final Fantasy, what is this? And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it. And that's when it came in the 4-disc set at the time. And so he bought it for me, and it was special because, as I said, my dad didn't believe in video games. So it was the first actual game that I'm not gonna say ever played, because I did play Sonic and other things back in the day, but they weren't mine though, right? I went to my cousin's house or whatever to play them. But the PlayStation was the first official game that I actually had for myself, and my dad bought me Final Fantasy VIII. And that's when I fell in love with the Final Fantasy series. And it holds a special place in my heart because, I'm not trying to be sad, my father passed away 2 years ago, but it was something that I always remember in my head. That's what he bought me. So, yeah.
That's so good. With RPGs, favorite RPG is always so tough because I feel like it changes for me all the time.
Exactly.
But I always have a super soft spot for Chrono Trigger.
Of course. Yeah, Chrono Trigger is awesome, man.
Gun to my head right now, I would say my favorite RPG. Final Fantasy VI?
6? Okay,
right
yeah.
now? Yeah. That could change tomorrow.
Yeah. I thought. I mean, would you consider Legend of Zelda RPG? I mean, it is, right?
It is, but it's. I guess more we're talking JRPG, the turn-based styles.
Technically.
Because Legend of Zelda, it's action RPG, adventure RPG.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's still RPG. I mean, technically, you could say Madden is an RPG. Like,
dang.
Most games are an RPG because you are. I mean, Madden, really, you got to think. You're taking control of a character. You're playing against AI opponents in turn-based situations. You are raising your stats.
You are.
Technically, Madden is an RPG.
A sports game RPG. Wow. Okay. I never thought about that.
Sports games people that are like, someone check on that guy. But yeah, technically anything like that could be an RPG. It is.
Sure.
All right. So Sainted, you are doing something really interesting to me right now that is so far the reverse of what I'm doing. Okay. I have my podcast and I have a blog I'm starting tomorrow, actually. Beautiful. But I stream and put all my stuff on YouTube. I'll take YouTube content and throw it on Instagram or TikTok, but my focus is YouTube. Correct. You, however, can be found on every platform.
That is correct.
You're everywhere. Correct. You're what? Fridays on YouTube.
Fridays and Saturdays. Yes.
Fridays and Saturdays on YouTube. What days are you on Twitch? Was it Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. And what days do you do Kick?
Once in a while. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you, and I'll explain why. But Kick is like a maybe Monday or Wednesdays, maybe. I don't, just depend on if I feel for that day or not. But Kick, as I'll explain later, like you said, it's just kind of like as in there, or whatnot. So, or would you like me to go ahead and explain? I'm sorry.
Oh, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Yeah.
So my main focus is YouTube still. It is always and will be YouTube. I still make long form content on my YouTube. As of course you guys see it. I've tried different plethoras of things. I've just made an AI long form content. Basically saying how basically AI could help live streamers edit their videos, right? And so there's like you said, there's a plethora of things I still do on YouTube Shorts, but that is definitely my main. On my Twitch page, I decided to go back to Twitch, even though I said I wasn't gonna go, but I did decide to go back to Twitch only because I had wanted to establish a division, almost you could say, because on one hand, as me and you just talk, I love RPGs. I love playing MMOs. I love playing those type of games. But sometimes, a lot of times, it kind of crosses off with my stuff I'm doing YouTube, which YouTube I do AAA games, or I play multiplayer games such, Apex or whatever. And so basically what I wanted to do was I want to just separate those two. I want to say, hey, if you see me on Twitch, for a fact I'm playing an MMO, or for instance, I've been playing I guess I'm about to say Starlight. I forgot the name of the game that just came out. It won't come to my head. It's an anime game that just came out, and I don't know why I can't remember it in my head. It's a big. It's a train.
I watched you play it.
Yeah, the problem is I cannot remember. That's sad because it went out of my Yonko. I think it's Yonko Star Rail. So I play a lot of anime-based games on Twitch only. Anytime you go on Twitch, that's the only game you'll see. You'll never see me play anything else.
Was it Honkai Star Rail?
Yeah, Honkai Star Rail. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to your page and straight up just pulled it. Like, I know.
Yep.
I know. I have you quick.
Exactly. And that's the only type of games you'll see me play on Twitch. You won't see me play anything else. And then, like I said, on YouTube, you'll see me play AAA games or even multiplayer games I play with friends. I'll play, of course, same thing on Twitch with friends. I'm playing like a Final Fantasy 14 or whatever. But that was my main focus. Kick was just an experiment. I'm not gonna lie to you. Kick was just to say, okay, let me see. Let me go in there for a couple of weeks. Let me see how it goes. But Kick is the same thing. I ain't gonna sound like that, but Kick is like Twitch kind of in a way. It's still very, very, very like what's the right word to say? There's still a lot of game, like the game that you but the games you expect people to go in there and play, for instance, like Apex, there's still thousands of people on there, so it really didn't make a difference if you move from Kick to Twitch as far as that is discoverability. I was also streaming on Facebook Gaming at one point in time, but Facebook Gaming wasn't going absolutely anywhere. So I just decided just to go ahead and put reels up and just kind of like get people to come over to YouTube, or if they like MMOs, go on my Twitch. So that was my main thing. But of course, again, it's always just getting discovered, right? The more platforms you are, the more eyes people see you, more people will come in and come check you out. So
what initially made you think I'm going to start? I know you kind of alluded to it. You kind of mentioned this, but what really initially got that idea going of why you're across multiple platforms streaming?
So, of course, just like any person, right? I listen to different podcasts. I listen to different influencers that already have done this. And a lot of times, like for instance, I'll throw out the name like Harris Heller, for instance, right? Going out, just being able to go out and find more people. Or let me not say that. Let me say that a different way. Not being able to settle, it's cool to be in one settled place. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, YouTube is the long-term goal. But a lot of times, a lot of people don't go to YouTube. Some people are just strictly on Facebook most of the time. Some people just on Twitch most of the time, which we know Twitch is still the dominant person when it comes to streaming. So my thought process again was, all these influencers saying, "Hey, you don't want to be tied down for just one place." And I guess also on top of that, Mixer as well kind of threw a wrench in there as well. When as you guys know, I was on Mixer at one point in time, and I settled just for Mixer. I didn't go to YouTube, Twitch. I just settled for that one place. When Mixer shut down, everything that I had was completely lost. So that taught me the old saying, "Don't put your eggs in one basket," right? So that's what I did. I started putting my eggs in multiple baskets and putting myself out there just to make sure that, people see me, people can discover my content that don't go on YouTube all the time or don't go to Twitch all the time. And that's the way that I want to go, and kind of put that in my head to just to put myself out there.
All right. So you mentioned earlier that you kind of separate your content across, what you have on Twitch versus what you have on YouTube. What is it that led you to keeping the AAA games on YouTube and your more experimental content over on Twitch? What led you to that decision?
Okay. So I would probably say my AAA games, as you say, I'll put it like this. So YouTube has where you can stream in different formats, right? I can stream any other game in 2K, 4K, it doesn't matter. And so just because of my capabilities here, I decided to say, okay, most people, when you watch a AAA game or whatever, I can download all my stuff from YouTube in 4K. I can download it, edit it, and put it back on there so people can watch it. Compared to Twitch, you only can go 1080. Of course, you still have to pull it. You kind of do the same thing as well, but I feel like Twitch has a more base for the MMORPGs. I know that's weird to say, but as far as I know, a lot of people that I follow are anime based or they're MMOR based, and so they tend to get a lot more people on Twitch that tends to like that more compared to YouTube. YouTube tends to be more AAA action, I can really say.
Well, and Twitch also has something that YouTube doesn't in the form of that Twitch loot, which typically goes for MMO type games. I know I've gotten Destiny gifts for that before. I'm sure they've had Final Fantasy ones before. Yeah. RuneScape. I know they had RuneScape at one point. Like, they've always kind of had those gifts. So that's definitely good stuff.
No, you are absolutely right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You are right. The drops are very important. Matter of fact, Honkai Star, where I was just playing, I had drops on my stuff. So you're and it kind of incentivizes somebody to come and watch the stream as well.
I think so, yeah. So how do you stay up to date on the latest trends and features for each platform? Because what's working on Twitch may not work on TikTok, which may not work on YouTube. How do you stay on top of that?
Man, I am on my phone 24/7. This device here, this thing is deadly. So a lot of times I work, and I'm not trying to say I don't do work at. Please don't. I'm not gonna say that I don't do work. I do work at work, y'all. But a lot of times, because I'm on all the platforms already, a lot of times that stuff just pops up on my phone, and I just go through it. I'm on all social medias, right? As a content creator, you kind of have to be there. You have to know what's going on in order to stay up to date with every single thing. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on, of course, on YouTube. I'm on all these platforms already, and so I am like a lot of you. I constantly feed myself all the time what's going on. Like I said, through phone, through the apps, and even a lot of times though, I can really say of all the things, Twitter is probably the biggest one, though. Twitter definitely keeps me up to date on every single thing that's going on in mainly the world, but also, like I said, mainly in gaming, right? Following different, like I say, Harris Harrell, Jake, all these other, I'm following the YouTube CEO. I mean, always Twitter just always just giving out information. So I say that's probably the biggest one of all of them.
What would you say to a creator just getting started in 2023? Would you recommend them doing multi-platform, or would you suggest them building a base where they think their home is going to be and then expand?
That just depends on what platform you're trying to go to, because for instance, me and you both know that if you go on Twitch, you have to have more than one platform. You have to be on TikTok or Instagram. Or matter of fact, some of the main reasons why we moved to YouTube was because you have to be on YouTube in order for people to discover you from Twitch. So if you're a brand new person, I say my main thing. Yes, I would say definitely be on multiple platforms if possible, if you can. I say another big thing is probably have that niche, right? As I said before, going back to separating the two, right, between Twitch and YouTube, you want people to know what you're there for, and I had to find that kind of like the hard way, you know. Yes, we are variety here. We love to do variety things, but there's lots of content creators that do that. So my best suggestion would be to focus on a niche. Get a game that you really like or that you really want to focus on. Focus on that game, make different content around that game. And as your community expands and people get to know you and you're growing your community, then start venturing off to different games. So that way, basically, they'll grow with you and they'll be with you all day, every day. And I want to put this as well. When I say niche, right? When we talk about it, right? As you said, Madden, you also have to be very careful with what games you pick because, as you said before, when you're playing Madden or 2K, most people are going to be expect you to be playing sports type games. Then, hey, you're not playing the sports game. And a lot of people that play like sports, they don't really like RPGs or anything of that nature. They like sports type games.
Even though that is an RPG.
Yeah, even though it is an RPG, but they don't. But to them, it's just a sports game. But if you go, like you said, you play Apex or COD, again, people are going to be kind of expecting you to play the FPS type games. They'll be like, "Oh, okay, you type games." And so, and just like what GTA, same thing with GTA. People, you play GTA a lot. A lot of people do a lot of role playing. They're gonna be expecting that role playing game, but what I'm trying to say is when you decide to go to that variety to do different games, don't expect your people, all of them. I'm gonna say that. Don't expect all your community to be on board with you. So expect to lose some people to or not being in the chat with you. Only the people that really want to hang out with you are going to be there, of course. But a lot of other people are like, oh, well, he's not playing this, so it definitely expect that. So, but like you said, you could definitely get content out of those games for sure.
Saying that, I really appreciate having you. I do have one very important last question for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You guys are going to have to watch this as a VOD. I get to watch it live. Talk to us about DreamCon.
Okay, so I want to Dream Hack. No, you're good. Dream Hack, guys. So I am a creator at DreamHack from June starts tomorrow, June 2nd through June 4th. But I get to stream from their booth on June 3rd from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. I'm also doing a charity stream for sick children as well. So definitely, guys, come through, come have some fun with me, come hang out with your boy, and man, support me, man. I really, 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 really appreciate it. It's going to be fun. This is my first time being a creator or being invited as a creator anywhere. So I do have that sense of nervousness with me, but I want to have friends there and going to meet new people. So I will be actually doing I'm about to say VOD. No, that's not the correct term. I'm going to be doing come on, say
Recap?
I got a camera and walking around with
you're
camera.
going to live vlog it?
I'm going to be vlogging. I'm sorry. God. I am going to be vlogging.
Sick.
I'm going to be vlogging the whole entire thing. I just bought me a Sony ZV-E10 4K camera, and I got the tripod and everything. So I'm going to be having fun. It's going to be my first vlog too, y'all. So definitely check out that. But man, I'm excited, and it's going to be fun. I cannot wait for tomorrow.
Well, congrats. We're proud of you. We all knew you could do any of this stuff. We're all very proud of you. All right, guys, remember to take care of yourself, take care of your friends, and be better.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming and hang out with your boy. I really, really appreciate it. It's your boy. Thank you guys so much for being awesome. You guys be great. And I'll see you guys next time, man. Deuce.
Let's go.
Let's go.